Hello, everybody, and welcome back to M&J Games. I am Michael, and welcome to the final actual building episode of the series. As I appreciate everybody who's followed along for the ride for this park. As you can see, we've had to lead a lot to create this extra space, but just kind of getting an overview of kind of the landscape of the park and stuff. And I think this is definitely my best park. I feel like I've grown as a builder as this park has been built. Just with design, using terrain changes, trying to get better building buildings and so forth. And so in this episode, we're done with this spot. And like I said, there might be somebody making a sign for me that I might put in here, but I need to make the transfer track for this. And I realized that one thing I should have done, which I can't really do that now, is I should have eliminated the supports on part of this. But I can't go back and do that now because I've already saved it as a blueprint. So we're just going to have to work with that. And then we will be doing a lot of the kind of, little things around in the backstages, like kind of adding some air ducts and so forth. And so that's kind of just the main thing. And then maybe building out a couple warehouses. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started building, and I'll see you guys on the first update. So I just completed the transfer track, and I'm really excited with how this turned out. And so as we head this way, I've added fencing going up here. And then I added these scaffolding boards right here. And what I actually did for this one is I actually added in, I didn't realize that these haunted house beams are actually match the ones that are being used for the coaster. So I just kind of extended those to kind of create this covering for when trucks and stuff go. But here is the maintenance area. And I didn't really deck out the interior just because, as you can see, at 100%, if we delete this, still have 5 to 6% left, probably about 5.5%. And so here's the maintenance area. And at night, it's lit up enough. So we got those lights on the interior, those lights right there. And so really happy with how this kind of came together. And so let's look at this for just a little bit of detail. I might have too many beams going across, but I'm just thinking from a support standpoint. And then, obviously this would slide over, and you'd have two different tracks right there. And yeah, so really, really happy with how this turned out. You know what? I probably actually need to add some supports to this walkway right here, because there is nothing supporting that walkway. Unless if I just... Now we can look at it as the beam supporting it. I think that should be good enough. I don't know what this is doing right here. What is that beam doing? Yeah, I don't know what that's doing right there. Yeah, I think those are a little bit off center because I forgot to kind of create on a grid where they're not exactly perfect, but it is what it is. Sometimes it works out that way, but I'll end up adjusting that. So yeah, this is the transfer track. What I ended up doing was these scaffolding pieces on the side, because it kind of makes it look a little more rustic, a little bit different. But really, really happy with how this turned out. So I'd love to hear what you guys think. Just copy this part over from this little, whatever you call this, operator's booth ordeal. And added a few more trees and stuff around, so it's very heavily wooded. And as you can see, there's just not a lot of ground that's not covered with stuff, which is realistic. And so I'm going to continue building, and what I'll be working on next is going to be the kind of warehouse and maintenance areas, and then going around and doing some of this little stuff on some of the buildings. And so that will be revealed in the final update. So I will talk to you guys in a little bit. So quick little update here. I've started working on these two areas. I'm really not going to do too much more because I don't, it's kind of an awkward space to try to fill. And so essentially what I've done is I've created this kind of hazard strip, and I've put in some parking spaces along with like a drop-off zone and stuff. And then over here, I copied this building from other area of the park. I've just kind of extended it just to try to take up a little bit of space right here. And then this warehouse, I've shortened it a little bit, but I actually went back to Canyon Valley because actually this is my favorite warehouse I've made. And I copied this over, and then I have the full version over here. So now we're kind of getting a little bit more, just adding a little bit more to this space. So when you look at it from above, it's not just blank empty space now, it's usable space and stuff. And so I probably won't do too much more here in terms of with the warehouse stuff. I'll probably put some stuff kind of laying around like I've started doing here. And then, do stuff on the back of buildings and so forth. So I want to try to save about 1 to 2% for that. And so we will see, because if we were to delete this, let's get an idea of how much more space we have left. So we still have 6-7% essentially. So we got a good amount left to work with still. I've still got to do this transfer track area here. I'm expecting this to take no more than 1%. And then, like I said, I might use part of this warehouse as kind of a design. This is also one for my Canyon Valley Park that I think is a really well done warehouse. And so sometimes I'm kind of like, well, this is really well done. Like for example, if we place that, I might do something different in here, might kind of change this up, but I definitely like this building. And I got the idea for this one from watching, whose was it? I think it's Matt Lowndes' video of Velocity Lake. But yeah, I really like this kind of drop-off zone and so forth. And I like the idea with this one of having, a track piece. Although that track piece is right there, I don't have that coaster type in the park, so that won't work out. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on this right now. Did I do anything else? Added a couple more doors down here to this little building. That's so weird how that's a different color. Added another door over here. Kind of added some more trees kind of going around and really trying to make this wooded, because my idea was just kind of have the trees kind of hug up against these areas. And I think that's it. Oh yeah, another update I did is I put a couple ATMs in here just to have, hopefully guests will kind of be walking in here and looking like they're interacting with the lockers. So that was kind of my idea with that. And yeah, so I'll see you guys at the next update. All right, guys, so we're here at the final update in the reveal, and I'm really excited because now everything is done with this park. And last thing I need to do, which we're not, unless if I'm able to get it here quickly, I'm not going to fully place everything back in this park, as I've already done that, because it can take a little bit. But I got pretty lucky, and I don't know why it's moving so slow, because all of a sudden it'll pick up, with how I saved this blueprint, because I'm able to get a really good view, because usually you just kind of have to place it and then move each of the groups and coasters kind of individually. But I was able to get kind of a good view here of the wooden coaster. And so what I'm going to do is shift it down. Oops. And the camera sometimes just does not work well for this. So I'm going to try to get it as close. And sometimes you got to slightly move the controller, because it's just not the best to work with. All right, so we'll just place it right there for right now. So that will do for what we're trying to work on. And actually, that's pretty close. That's not perfect, because you can see how when I placed these lights before, which if this camera will work, I placed the lights flat on that piece, so it's just a little bit off, which is not the end of the world, because most people aren't going to notice that. And you can see here, either it's a little bit low, so the height's not perfect as well. So then you can go back and kind of move around each one individually. But what I want to do is, before we kind of look at some of the changes, I want to be able to visually, I just want to see some views from the front of the park now that we have everything actually back placed inside the park. So we'll just do that real quick, and let me get the HUD off the screen. And I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about that I've been working on this park for about 4 months now, and I still think the best coaster is this Fury inspired coaster, and that was done on episode 1. But like, look at this visual right here. That, I mean, how beautiful is that? And what a view as you are entering the park. And then not only do you get to see the view of that, you've got that nice Zamperla, I think is the manufacturer's name. And then you've got your RMC back there, and you can just see the loop of that Wild Eagle inspired coaster back there. Like, that's really cool. And then you can also see the drop there. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, that's a pretty big wing coaster, but because it goes up on the mountain, it gives the illusion from here that it's a lot taller of a coaster than it really is. And so just the views, I'm just so excited about here. And then one that I noticed as well as I was kind of walking around, if we look back here, which you can see a warehouse, you can see a little bit of the flying coaster or the aero suspended coaster. So I think that's a really, really cool touch as well. So if we hop out of Plipcam mode and we kind of look at an overview, I'm just going to kind of go over what is done, and let's start with the outside of the park. So I wish I could have done more in terms of trying to border some of the roads and stuff, or at least actually having, would have been nice to not have to worry about the counter and actually just use paths to kind of border it. But I found this off the in somebody else's park or off the workshop. I'm trying to remember. I need to look up who made this. But I really liked what they did, so I kind of adjusted it a little bit. And so this is, just a basic warehouse spot. If I'd had more percentage, I would have put some parking spaces and tried to make this a little bit more nice. But I am happy how, like, every part of the park has access roads to it. And so if we keep going this way and we go underneath the coaster here, you head up this way, we get to the main warehouse area. And this is actually the warehouse from Canyon Valley, because I really like it that I made. Like, I think it looks good. I'm like, why spend all this time remaking something if I really like how it looks? And what I did was I placed these on the roof to kind of make them look kind of like a sunlight. And then I just copied this over to have 2 of them. So instead of taking a ton of time to do stuff totally different, like, most people aren't going to spend a lot of time back here. And it's really just kind of about the looks you can see to make it like from afar. And the only thing I should have done, actually, you know what? I should delete that track piece because, well, I guess that could pose as like a track piece for the Giga, even though that's actually for the, is in Canyon Valley, I had is that for the dive coaster? Yeah, that's for the dive coaster. Yeah, and so if we go this way, there's a little access road down here to get to the invert. There's a road over this way that takes you down to the wing coaster. And I think this was last episode, where I made this. I can't remember if I spent a lot of time looking at this, but just the basic transfer track. You've got your control box here on the edge. You got your cameras, lights, all that stuff. Oh, and one thing too, I saw this in No Name Landia. I think these are awesome lights. So they're just the half sphere, and they're kind of with the lantern, I think is what it's called, the oil lamp. They don't really give off any light. So it's more just for show to kind of have a cool kind of look to it, because I had to place area lights underneath to give off the light. Even though the light's a little different, just to give it a nice kind of cool look. So I like the idea that's kind of hanging on that cable wire. So if we look back up here, the only coaster in the park that I wasn't able to get direct access from outside of the actual guest area was the RMC. And so the planning on my part there wasn't the greatest then. But so if you come around this way, you got your maintenance area down here. Still like how this area looks. Then this way, this is another maintenance building from Canyon Valley. I think those warehouses look nice. So I was like, okay, I'll just put it down here because there was just so much wasted space at this time. And now it looks how it would look in a theme park. It looks more natural. Like you're going to have some warehouses right here. And then this would be like a little staff building for something. And one thing, I can't remember if I mentioned this in one of the earlier episodes. This is actually a staff... perfect timing. Staff building in here. So in my next park, I do want to try to incorporate more staff rooms that are like actually in the warehouse area so that you can actually see like maybe one in here. So you'd actually see staff walking back to this little building. Yeah, so then you go here, you go under the bridge. You can come up around and you can go to the or the suspended coaster. Or you can come this way, go down here, and I didn't really create any access to the water ride. I don't really make too many water rides, so I'm not experienced with that. But then you come up here to the Zamperla coaster, and then you can come up this way. You could get on the path here and go up here. Now, the only thing I forgot to do is I forgot to actually close this up. So that's the one mistake I made in terms of leaving something undone. I also forgot to completely light up this area over here. So it's all good though. Everywhere else is pretty, it's lit up okay. It's not perfect, but as I've said before, lighting is one of my least favorite things to do and don't really care about it, but I do like trying to put lights on the coasters. So I tried to at least light stuff up to an okay standard. So I'm really happy with how the kind of maintenance areas and backstage areas have worked out in this park. Also, like I showed you before, we got a maintenance area here with this flat ride and that building, which I've got a staff room in there. So that once again is perfect timing. So one thing I've done as well is I've looked at some PC parks and just tried to kind of emulate some things that they've done to try to create that rooftop realism, like air ducts, coming from a machine here. You got it going to the upper portion. These are just the ancient statue hoops. This is an ancient golden prop. I think I probably should have put something a little bit below it. And then here we just have windows representing this kind of almost like solar panel type ordeal. And so once again, rooftop things there. Same thing here. So just trying to do different things to kind of add to that realism aspect of it where the rooftops aren't blank. I wasn't able to do it with every building. Like this one over here, I didn't really do too much to it just because I ran out of time. And then I changed these pieces out because they were, when you zoom too far back, you'd actually see what the sign looks like. So I kind of had to change it out to, what did I use? I used the road signs, I think. Yeah, road signs. So happy with that. Oh, and I forgot about there's also you can get right there. Like I said, really happy with how the maintenance areas turned out. So that's kind of a lot of what I was able to work on this episode. But then I also completed the transfer track, which I love how this turned out. We got my archer there. Let's take this guy out. And, it's not perfect. It's not necessarily in some ways most realistic. Like, there's probably got to be some way for a car to kind of get underneath here or a truck or something. But really happy with how the look of it, how it turns out. And I use the wooden scaffolding planks for the sides, as Nerd Chacho in one of his tips videos talks about. You can use scaffolding planks, use the actual fencing, like wooden fencing, different stuff to kind of create a cooler look for the station track building instead of just using your traditional wood pieces. And I can actually delete that too. So just add some more trees around here, and then we've also got this this wall right here that's would have been kind of, to prevent stuff from falling on the transfer track area, and just so that we can have some flat land up here, essentially. So if we look at this area at night, it's lit up enough. I do need to change the color of the coaster cars, so I'm definitely going to change that red. And once again, we look in here. I didn't try to do too much. And one thing I really have enjoyed in terms of lighting with stuff is using those, they're not floodlights, I forget what they're called, emergency lights, because I feel like they really light the area up well, and not having to use too many lights. So really like how that looks. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to go over. But yeah, now this is one area that I wasn't really able to do anything backstage, and I'm okay with that. Let's see. Over here, kind of added some stuff in the back. There's a couple more doors I need to add, I think. Or did I get all the doors? No, I got that. That's okay. So yeah, really, I'm just stoked with how this park turned out, because I've enjoyed the parks I've made. But looking back at my latest parks compared to this one, I think I've improved a lot. And I think that this is way better than Canyon Valley or Three Towers. Trying to do different elevation changes, trying to get more detailed with buildings, and just trying to add all the realism aspects to it. So I'm really, really happy with how that turned out. And so to end this episode, because it's been a little bit, we're going to take a ride on Windrush. I almost said Fury 325. That's not the name of it. So we're going to take a ride on Windrush, and I hope to see you guys at the park tour. The premiere for the park tour that will be either in 1 week or 2 weeks, as I might do like a promotional video for it. But stay tuned for that, and thank you so much. Wow, I can't speak. Thank you so much for all the support throughout the series, and it really means a lot. And I'm going to start planning and looking forward to the next park. So I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.